Okay, so welcome to episode, like, what are we at, 9, 10 of Living a
Yep, something
Remarkable
like
Life?
that sounds right.
And today, so today we're talking about building a brighter future. Kevin and I were talking a little bit last night, and we're both devastated, as I know many people are, about what's happening in Paris. We also need to think about what also happened in Beirut and what's been happening in places like Syria and all over the world. Beirut had several bombings yesterday as well, but is not getting the attention that Paris received. So we're keeping them all in our hearts, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we can make the world a better place and build a brighter future.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, do you have any thoughts on anything that's happening?
I echo what you said. It's absolutely terrible what happened in Paris. It's also terrible what happened in Beirut and what happens in countries like Syria on a daily basis. I mean, when it happens in a major Western capital, of course, it gets far more media attention than when it's happening in more of the developing world. But bad things are happening around the world on a daily basis, unfortunately. And, wanting to make the world a better place is basically the core of my why. So I absolutely hate seeing things like this. And I just don't understand what can bring people to do this to each other. So I want to do what I can to help stop it from happening.
What I do absolutely love is the positive news coming out of Paris and the crowds of people who joined together to carry that message, not afraid. They basically were standing up to terrorism and saying that you're not going to scare us off, you're not going to ruin our lives, we're going to keep going and we're going to be strong and not afraid. And that it gives me hope. And it's just such a great display of love. And all the countries following suit and changing their colors to honor Paris, that was just absolutely wonderful. And we need to make sure that we're including in our everyday, making sure that we're thinking about things like this, because we're from a developed nation that doesn't have an awful lot of on-the-ground terrorism happening in Canada or US right now. Like, there are different things happening, but there's not on the daily scale that you're seeing in other countries. We mentioned Syria, we mentioned Beirut. Imagine going about your day one day, just being at a square for a gathering or at a restaurant or whatever, and suddenly having shots fired or terrorist bombings or anything like that. And that's the reality so many people are living.
I actually,
so we need to keep that in our hearts.
I was talking to a girl from Lebanon the other day, actually, on through Live Your Legend, and she was talking about that, like how they every day, like that's part of their reality, that there could be a bombing down the street, and yet she goes on doing exactly similar things to like what you and I are doing, but in far more challenging circumstances. We definitely have it very lucky to live where we do.
And I think that really is the key, is to keep going forward. You have to keep moving forward. You have to keep doing what you can to make the place a little bit more positive, to make the world more positive. So we're not going to spend the whole time talking about Paris and Beirut and Syria, because it is very, very important. But let's talk about what we can do to give the whole world a brighter future. There's so many ways to do it. So we picked a couple different ideas that we're going to talk about today, including giving back or giving forward, co-opetition, and something that's very, very important that we often forget is improving ourselves. Because when we don't improve our own mindset, we're not going to improve the mindsets of others. People will join together on a bandwagon, if you'd say, based on different behaviors. So if you're exhibiting great behavior and you're giving forward and everything else, you're going to have other people joining you to also share that. Whereas if you're negative all the time and can't get through your own little daily issues or challenges, you're just going to be bringing everybody down to the same level. So we want to constantly rise people up and help them move forward. So let's start talking about giving back, Kevin.
Giving back, I mean, obviously giving back is a way that those of us who live in more privileged lifestyles or countries can do to help directly make, an impact on those who don't have it as lucky as we do. There's all sorts of organizations. You know, you can donate money, you can donate time, you can donate goods, and you can find a cause that, you know, supports what you believe in. Whether, say, you believe in education as a method of improving the world. Well, there's all sorts of organizations out there that'll build schools in developing countries and make sure that they operate. You know, if you believe that clean water and health is important, you can find charities that you can donate to that will do that kind of work in the developing world. And I guess it's also important to not forget about your own country, right? Like, I support the United Way here, and they help people who are more down on their luck in Calgary, because it's also important to support your own community. I mean, yes, even people down on their luck in Calgary have it better off than a lot of people in the rest of the world, but I do still believe it's very important to support your own community as well.
Well, you have to build up your own community, and people who need help in your own community, if you're helping them and helping them with a hand up, then they can start helping others. And once they start helping others, then you can help more places in the world. So it's sort of a balance of doing a little bit locally, doing a little bit overseas. And there's so many projects out there. There's the Shoebox Project, which fills shoeboxes for women and children in shelters to give them something special at Christmas. There are so many Out of the Cold nights where you can help homeless either find shelter or even just have the basic stuff they need to survive another night or two in the streets, because it's not a matter of them necessarily not being able to get housing. Sometimes it's a matter of they just won't go to a house. They won't stay in a house because there are big mental issues that also need to be taken care of. We can do different things like volunteering at a soup kitchen or at the food bank. This time of year in particular, we tend to get a lot of donations to the food banks because people are thinking of Christmas, but we need to do that year round. And we also have to ask the question, what is the underlying issue? What is the root cause of these things that are happening in our community? What can we help to change it? So in terms of homelessness, we have to investigate the issues that lead to homelessness. Is it not being scared of potential shelters? Perhaps if you can only find a rooming house, maybe you don't want to be in that environment. I've heard of people who don't want to use the shelter system because there's too much violence or drugs in it, and that's more likely to make them worse. Or maybe it's a matter that there's not enough beds at a shelter, or there's not enough emergency housing. For people who are using the food bank, perhaps well, one, we have to make sure that we're donating year round. And think about the food bank in this way. If you are a single parent and you get sick and you miss even one single paycheck, that suddenly wipes out your entire food budget and your ability to feed your kids. If one of your kids gets sick and you need to buy a prescription, that prescription may eliminate your food budget. Your rent costs alone eliminate your food budget. So we need to think about that. It could be people who are working half decent jobs, but by the time you cover your costs of expenses and living and gas, there's not much left for food. So we need to make sure we're donating year round to help people get that hand up there as well, and make sure our kids
and you touched on the ripple effect it can create a little bit, and I think it's good to talk about that. I've interacted, I've volunteered with some of these causes, and I've interacted with people who've benefited from it, and most of them have talked about how grateful they are for receiving that support, and for how much they want to then in turn give back to the community once. I mean, some of them do it even when they're down on their luck. They still find ways to help out and support, right? And it's like, it's just, you might think you're only one person and what can I do? But, when you go out and start making those ripples, that's when the magic can really happen, right?
Well, and I'm a firm believer in a smile can change the world. You could walk by someone, smile at that person, and that could be that smile that stops the person from taking their own life. As sad as that is to think about, if you're feeling that down and that desperate, and somebody just smiles at you or does a single random act of kindness for you, it can completely change your entire world. Now, we're talking about all the different things you can do locally. Something else we really need to talk about as well is the need to have conversation, because if we're not aware of what's happening, how can we think about ways to solve issues? So we need to have those conversations about homelessness. We need to have those conversations about clean water and things like that, because the average person does not necessarily realize that there's kids in the world who don't have running water or flush toilets. We take it so for granted that we don't think about the need for those type of things. We don't realize that living in a war zone is an everyday occurrence for people. We don't realize that things like refugee camps or something that are still happening. How is that a reality for so many people? But we take it for granted, and we go about sipping our Starbucks and arguing over Starbucks cups. Like, come on, there's so many more things in the world than the color of Starbucks cups.
It's uncomfortable to talk about, no doubt about it. But if you don't have those conversations and increase the awareness, then there's going to be less people working to improve those challenging situations. And, at the end of the day, you're right. We have it we're very, very lucky to live in the circumstances that we do in North America, as an example. And we do take, many people take it for granted. And it's uncomfortable and hard to talk about, but if you want to make the world a better place, you need to have those conversations, I think.
Yeah. So a couple other ways that you can give back or work on building your community really is doing things like creating community events that help other members of the community or give learning opportunities. Another way is mentoring. So mentoring is a wonderful, wonderful way to give back. It helps the next generation. It helps people who are new, and it really helps build people up. So do you have any experience mentoring, Kevin?
I've volunteered with Big Brothers and Big Sisters for a little while. And I also I do some mentoring with some people that I've interacted with who are, a little more down on their luck, and just sharing some of my experiences and knowledge with those people. And I know that they're incredibly grateful for it. And that's another way to start creating a ripple.
And chances are they're going to go on to welcome other people in the future, which is absolutely amazing. So basically that's something we should be looking at, giving back wherever we can, and just doing what we can to create that ripple effect and create a brighter future for everyone worldwide. Another topic we were going to talk about was co-opetition, which is one of my favorite words, and I have to credit Mark Hill at Digital Giants for that, because it is just such an awesome word. It's a combination of cooperate and competition. There are so many businesses out there, there are so many people out there who only see people as competition, and they see that as a really bad thing, whereas co-opetition is working with each other to make things better, to make things happen. It's working with that business down the street to get things done. So if you're at Harvey's and you run out of milkshake mix, and it's having the relationships with things like Arby's to go get the shake mix and make shakes for everyone. Everyone benefits. And that's what it is. Co-opetition is making sure everybody is benefiting and working together to build a stronger community, whether it's in business or at a school or anything else. When we help each other, we're providing a service to the world and to each other, and just increasing
and I think
things.
It's an interesting thing that I've noticed as I've gotten more involved in the coaching industry, is most coaches want to, they don't look at other coaches like competition. They want to help their fellow coaches, because at the end of the day, that's going to mean helping more people. And you're right. Certain industries are very secretive, and they don't want to help each other out. But just look at any major achievement really in humanity, and it involves working together. And sure, some healthy competition will help lead to innovations and whatnot. But sharing that information, working together, cooperating, I think is key, like you say.
Yeah, I totally had a thought, and I have completely lost it, which is horrible, because it was a good thought too. Keep those moments.
They happen to all of us, and it could very well come back to find you again. I guess, another area with the co-opetition maybe a little bit is within your communities that you might be a part of, and being willing to share ideas and share information with members of your community, even like we're doing right here, right? And just, who knows, that one little bit of information that you share could lead to somebody else having an amazing breakthrough, right? Which can then,
for sure,
who knows what kind of impact that's going to have on the world. So
my thought has came back somewhat. Yeah, so when we cooperate and help each other, we're really doing a service to our community. But what's even more important is that we identify our own individual values and skills, because that eliminates competition. If you are a printer and your neighbor is a printer, well, maybe that printer specializes in one thing and the other printer specializes in another. In the coaching industry, people specialize in all different things. Some people coach and do self-improvement. Other people coach for healthy living or weight loss. There are so many different things, and it's all about you defining yourself and your business defining its own individuality. What unique value are you adding to the conversation? What unique value are you adding to the business? Because when you have your own unique value, you're not going to have a competitor, because you're setting it yourself. And you also have to realize that not everyone is the right fit for other people. You wouldn't match one personality with a different type of personality necessarily, because it might not be a really good relationship.
No, that's a very good point. And I think businesses that are willing to acknowledge that not everyone is right for them, and is willing to pass that customer on to somebody who maybe it's a better fit with, those kinds of places are going to be far more successful, I think, in the long run. Focus on the core groups that you can serve, and let other people serve everybody else, who's better at serving those people.
For sure. So let's talk about the actual root issue, which is ourselves. How can we improve ourselves to help others? And we already talked about having conversations.
I mean,
we talked a little bit about listening.
Education is the root of self-improvement, right? And I think there's lots of studies out there that show that, as education improves in countries, the levels of violence go down, the levels of conflict go down, the overall quality of life of the people goes up. So, at a macro level, helping to improve education across the world is a great way, I think one of the best ways to improve the world. On a more micro level, you're right. Spending time on yourself, learning, having an open mind, being willing to be open to new ideas, not being stuck in dogma or, well, this is how it's always been, right? Being willing to change and develop and grow with the times, I think, is very important.
Oh, for sure. We really need to keep listening to each other as well. The more we listen to each other and hear about the needs of each other, the more we can help each other. So definitely keep talking, having the conversations, and going from there.
And listening, like you say, listening and really listening, not listening just for what you want to hear necessarily, but listening for new ideas and for challenges that people might be having, and then being willing to respond and help to those challenges. And I think sharing information with others, like, we do sometimes on this blab. If you find some particularly useful resources that have helped you grow and develop, well, I think it behooves you to share them with other people.
We absolutely love sharing here. Yeah, and sharing is so important. When we listen to other people share their stories, it also is a way for other people to unleash that issue that they're holding back, or share information with us. It's really, really rewarding, really, to be able to let go of some of what's being held inside of us and share it with others. And we were talking earlier about education as well. I have not been a very good listener today. Bear with me here. But education is so important, and learning from what people are sharing. the more I listen to what other people are saying, the more I share what I've learned from other people, the better I feel, the better I'm doing in my own self-life. So an interesting fact, I went back, and Facebook has the Memories app now. And it's interesting to look back at what I was saying a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. And I realized how much I've grown in that 5 years and how my thinking has changed. 5 years ago, I was talking about being sick all the time, or just I was more negative in what I was posting. And it's like, yeah, that was not helping me. That was not serving me. That was not serving others. So looking at how it's changed, now I'm helping others. Now I'm sharing useful information. Something else I've stopped doing, I've stopped wasting my time watching TV for the most part. I don't watch TV very often. I don't watch television shows or movies very often because I'd rather be learning and filling my head with knowledge and wonderful stuff. I don't watch the news. Any news I get is from my Twitter feed. And I try and watch what I'm watching, what I'm not watching, because the news is full of things designed to
scare
incite.
It really is designed to pull on those fear strings, because they know that that's what's going to keep you paying attention. And and
it's fear-mongering,
but they're businesses that have to make money, and if that's what keeps people's attentions and helps them get more ad sales, that's what they're going to do, right? But you're right. It can be a huge, and it's actually one of my struggles still. I've always been a bit of a news junkie, and although I've cut way back on the TV, I still succumb to spending far too much time on news websites.
Well, it's hard because we want to be informed, and that is very important to me, to be informed, but I don't want to be inundated with negative fear-mongering type material. I don't want to be listening to people attack each other because of things as stupid as the Starbucks cups or what Donald Trump said now or anything else. I don't want to see people attacking each other, but I want to know where there's problems in our society. I was on a politics site, and I want to know what's happening in my community, but look at our politicians, and all they do is attack each other. And that's not how it should be. Let's talk about how we can fix things, not who did what or anything else. I don't care if you had a traffic ticket 20 years ago, but apparently the media thinks
I think your strategy of using Twitter to stay current on events, because it's short, it's easy to just at a fairly quick glance see, as long as you don't start clicking on too many links, you can get a decent understanding of what's going on. And when major events are happening, you can see pretty quickly, what's going on.
Yes, and you can definitely choose a little bit easier how much more information you want to hear. And you can also back up your resources that way. So it's a great way to do it using Twitter and keeping an eye on things that way. And don't let yourself be sucked into the negative conversations. That's something so easy to do.
I want to go back a little bit to what you touched on, where you said like 5 years ago, you noticed you're a much more negative person. Or with the politicians, constantly attacking each other instead of talking about what the solutions are. I did a course last week, and the guy talked about living above the line, owning problems, being accountable, being responsible, finding solutions, not complaining and being the victim, because victims don't change the world and build a brighter future, right? If you're trapped in that negative mindset, you're not going to try to change things. So although it's not always easy, it's definitely not always easy. Sticking in that more positive mindset and trying to find the solutions and having those tough conversations, that's where change is going to come from, right?
For sure. And it's really hard to let people attack you or be the one who's unliked, but sometimes that's what needs to happen in order for you to move forward. And we have to realize, as we're trying to make any change happen, there's going to be people who don't want change to happen. There's going to be people who want to bring you down because they don't want anybody escaping their bucket. It's that crab in the bucket scenario. If you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, you don't need a lid on it, because all those crabs will keep pulling people down, will pull you down and keep you from achieving your dreams. So when we're trying to make change, there's going to be those crabs, there's going to be those complainers, There are going to be so many people who are against you changing and try to stop you, but you have to keep going forward no matter what other people are saying. You sort of have to build armor.
Haters gonna hate, right?
And yes, because you know what? If people are hating you, maybe you're on the right track to something. As long as you're not doing something mortally or morally wrong, which I know is one of my favorite sayings, then you're probably doing something right. You have to
you
change
can't
stuff.
let it paralyze you, because even something as simple as yesterday, I got some business cards printed, and I had two ideas, and I put it out to Facebook. Which one do people like better? And 80% of the people liked the one better than the other. A couple people were really against the one that was more popular, but I could have let that paralyze me from moving forward, but I didn't, because I have started to build up that armor and not cared about what everybody says, because the haters are going to hate.
And it's really, really hard to get over that thought.
Hard.
Yeah, so hard. So one of the things we also need to do, and I've lost my complete thought again.
I'll talk for a second, see if it comes back. It is hard to get over that mentality, and our brains are unfortunately wired to always watch out for the fear, right? It's what kept us alive and our ancestors alive when there was saber-toothed tigers and droughts and all this sort of thing happening all the time. But now a little bit of negativity, it's not going to kill you. And you just kind of have to step outside of your mind movie and your thoughts, and realize that this is just opinions. It's not really like it's not gonna kill me to go against what a couple people are saying, as long as you're not doing it.
Yeah, and maybe
that's right. Maybe it's not the right tribe, and like you say, as long as you're not doing something morally or ethically wrong, just go for it.
And there's always those gray areas you have to look at, where how morally wrong or ethically wrong is it? Because there's some things that maybe wouldn't have happened if certain lines were not crossed, but you definitely have to be very careful. My thought has came back. So something we have to do as we're trying to present our new ideas and make things change, we need to make sure that we're thankful to everybody helping us. If you're being a complete dick about things, it's really not going to come across very well. So you have to treat everybody with respect. Treat them with the respect you would want to be treated with, and be thankful to the people who are helping you. Something very important for people who are working with volunteers. If you are working with volunteers, you have people volunteering for you. Constantly. Make sure you're thanking them, because without those volunteers, you are not going to be successful, and you need to make sure that other people feel important. You have to help build other people up as you're building yourself up to make things happen. And that just goes back to the root of everything. When you can lift someone else up, you're going to improve the world and yourself.
And I mean, I'd say that.
So
same
goes with employees too.
It goes to the business world too. You have employees working for you. They're helping you out. They need to be valued. I know I've definitely worked at companies where you lose that feeling of being valued, and it's horrible for the morale of the organization.
And it has to be more than valued in terms of giving people money. You need to be valued by hearing thank you once in a while. So if somebody's helped you, say thank you. Thank you to everybody who's listening in today, because we like having somebody listen to us once in a while, and we're hoping that we're giving some useful information to you. As always, we do invite people to join us if they'd like to join us. We do ask that you have at least said hi to us in the side feed. But join us if you have something to say. If you have a question, ask us a question. We'd be happy to answer it if we can.
Yeah, that's right. It's an easy thing to say thank you, and I'm glad I was brought up to be polite and to say thank you to people who helped me. But don't forget to say thanks to those who help you, for sure. That's an important thing to keep in mind.
For sure. So how else can we help others and people in other countries?
I think another way is being your authentic and genuine self. Like, we all have unique talents and gifts to the world. So don't be afraid to share those. Don't be petrified by, wanting to show up as what you think other people want. Because maybe what the world needs is for you to show up with your authentic gifts and your authentic self. And And you know, that's another one
for
that can
sure.
definitely be hard to do. But I think, like I said, we all have unique gifts and talents, and if we're not, how do I want to say it? By not sharing those with the world, I almost feel it's being selfish.
Yeah, no, we have to be our genuine, authentic selves, and sometimes we don't know who that person is yet. So, yeah, it sort of goes along the way, and you start discovering who you are. So stay true to yourself, and keep doing things to improve yourself, because as you keep learning, it will get better. You will find yourself. You will find your why. I really highly recommend Simon Sinek's Start With Why, because when you can find the mission behind your why, when you can find your why, then you can apply it to everything in your life, whether it's building a business or working in your community or volunteering. It gives you a purpose. It gives you something to work towards, something to shape everything in your life around. And it's just
to keep
so
in
helpful
mind,
to do that.
When other people are telling you how to do things, you know, it's something I struggle with sometimes, you know, with gurus, and education is important to hear from other people who have done things, but other people are not you, and everybody has a unique why. I'm actually rereading that book right now, and it is fantastic. But you got to keep your why in mind and stay true to that why. And you know, another thing that can be hard is what other people will try to sidetrack you, you know, based on how they've had success. And that's great for them. But that doesn't mean it's the way you have to do things. We're all unique.
Yeah, and I know even myself, as I'm building different programs and working on the next phase of my business, I'm looking at things like email subscriptions, email lists. They're not important to me, but everybody is out there telling you, you have to have this huge email list, you have to have these subscribers. My question is, I don't open these email subscriptions, so who has time to open them? Things like that, things like webinars. Who is watching a webinar nowadays, and how long is the maximum time? So we have to ask those things as well. If people are pushing it and it has worked for them, is it going to work for you? Is that the right move for you? Because maybe you want to do something different, and there are going to be other people like you who feel the same way. So Jean's asking some questions here. Biggest questions we use with our teen journeys are, who are you and why you are here? So yeah, those are absolutely wonderful questions, and I love that you're talking about teen journeys, because that's something that I work with a lot. I work with a lot of teens. I have a few teens, and they are really our future. So I ask them all the time who you are and why you're here, and what you see yourself doing in the future.
I'm going to have to leave in a couple minutes. I'm just going to share some final thoughts. But like, I agree with Jean too. Those are great questions, and reflecting on those, it's not easy. I've been doing a lot of that myself lately. As I talk to, other coaches, as I try to find my way in the coaching sphere, you know, these coaches will share what's worked for them. And it's very easy to sit there and think, oh, that's worked for that person, that's what I need to do. But again, we're all unique, and you got to find your own unique reasons why, who you are and why you're here. And then you got to do whatever you can to stay true to that, because, you know, in a world of 7 billion people, there's lots of other people out there who are going to benefit from your unique talents and gifts. And, you know, the Simon Sinek's of the world and all those great people are serving tons of people. But you can serve tons of people too by being your unique self, just like they have, right?
For sure, for sure. Well, I think we're going to be ending shortly today. We're going to do a short session. Does anybody have any other questions or comments they'd like to share with us?
And then I guess we're going to be on a bit of a hiatus unless we find some co-hosts, it sounds like. If you're going to be gone next week, and then I'm going to be gone the 2 weeks after that. Well,
are you gone next weekend, or are you around next weekend? Okay, so Kevin's hosting solo, and he'll be looking for a few co-hosts. I think we had a few volunteers last time we were looking for co-hosts, and then the following week we will also be finding some. If anybody has any questions or any topic suggestions, please let us know, because we're always looking for topics that you're interested in. We want to know what you'd like to talk about, and we would like to share our experiences, and we want to hear yours as well. So please send in those questions or requests or information, and feel free to join the conversation.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, so I think that's it for today. Thank you again for joining us on Living a Remarkable Life. We do the replays of this labcast on our individual blogs. Mine is RebeccaPalmer.ca, and Kevin, yours
is my new one. I just launched it. There's not much there now, but
awesome.
By next weekend there'll be a lot more. So that's
we
right.
all have to start somewhere. And and it just builds from there. So thank you again for joining us. Jean, I will just pause the recording, and then we can talk offline, or actually I guess I could stay online. It doesn't really matter. Kevin, have a great haircut. Come back next week all nice and clean. Okay, see you later, Kevin. So Jean, what I do with teens, I'm actually launching an online teen entrepreneurial learning program for teens, which will be available to teens on a global basis. And in addition to that, I host local programs as well for them, teaching them basic entrepreneurial skills, basic life skills, and other things. And where are you from, Jean? Sounds good. You can email me at rebecca@entrelaunch.org. I'll just type that in there. And yeah, so we're really excited to be working with teens, and really looking forward to seeing the program go global. I'm actually working with a team of people across the world, so it's absolutely wonderful. Well, come on in, grab a seat, and join us. Or join me, I guess, now that Kevin's gone for the day. Okay. Oh, okay. So that's something new that I didn't know we could do. Did you want to hop on the conversation, Jean, or do you want to talk to me separately? Okay, so I think what we're going to do is, so thank you again for joining us today, and join us next week for Living a Remarkable Life.